And keep in mind, this is the 22nd anniversary of the handover of Hong Kong to China by Great Britain back in the year 1997. And joining us now on the broadcast is Veena Sikri, former Indian envoy to Hong Kong, who was the Indian envoy to Hong Kong in the year 1997 when the handover, the historic handover, took place. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on Wion World is One. When you're looking at Hong Kong today, going through all of the things it's going through, this great fight for civil liberties, at the same time a celebration of an anniversary, how do you view it with your own eyes 22 years down the line?
Well, actually, the handing over of Hong Kong to China in 1997 was a very carefully crafted exercise. It involved the creation of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of China. It involved the establishment of one country, two systems as a pattern of governance between Hong Kong and China. And it also involved the adoption of the Hong Kong Basic Law document, which is like the Constitution of Hong Kong. Now, this Hong Kong Basic Law is to be in force for 50 years till 2047. What has happened, I think, over the last many years in Hong Kong has been a breakdown in communications between those who administer Hong Kong. They are seen as being appointed, as selected by the mainland Chinese government, and the communication between them and the young people of Hong Kong. You know, many of the people who are demonstrating today, the young people, they were not even born in 1997 when the handover took place. So obviously it is something else. It is not somebody who remembers 1997. I think it's basically a lack of communication. What is happening today has its roots in what happened in 2014 when there was this huge umbrella movement, as it has been described. And again, that was about basic freedoms in Hong Kong. That in 2014, it was a question of Hong Kong looking to having universal suffrage in electing their authorities, both in the Legislative Council and as the Chief Executive of Hong Kong. This question went at that time in 2014 to the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress in Beijing, and it was turned down. And after it was turned down, there was a great feeling of disappointment among the young people. For 3 months in 2014, between September and December, they occupied important parts of Hong Kong. The Admiralty, Mong Kok, and so on, brought Hong Kong life to a halt.
There's been a secret in that sense. Tourism. In the sense, even then, my question here is, even then, the Chinese government, even then in the 2014 movement as well, the Chinese government just stood back, waited for it to die down and continue. But it hasn't died down. There is this constant churn within the average Hong Konger to free themselves from the clutches of Beijing.
Yes, that's it. Actually, at that time, the then Chief Executive was seen as too soft. I think the present Chief Executive is seen as too harsh and not at all wanting to have communications. And even now, today, I think yesterday what happened was terrible because, you know, going into the LegCo building, destroying the building, it is, after all, the Legislative Council of Hong Kong. It is where their elected members sit and discuss. So it has a great significance. And even now, after this, there has been no conversation, no communication between the Chief Executive and the people, and all you have is a promise to suspend discussion on this extradition law, because this extradition law, that is the matter of dispute right now, would affect the judicial authority of the Hong Kong people. It would mean that anybody in Hong Kong could be sent away to the mainland China for having his or her case decided there, quite unlike what the people of Hong Kong want. So I think there needs to be a strong communication, a discussion, wait. There is 2047 coming up, and at that time there can be but in the run-up to 2047 there must be an active dialogue and conversation between the people and those who are selected to be the Hong Kong rulers.
Right. Ms. Veena Sikri, one last question before we let you go. I want you to help us understand, from the way it looks, it seems to be a fight against keeping the identity of Hong Kong. And you see some of this graffiti on the screens. It says Hong Kong is not China. That seems to be the sentiment that's over there. So there is a sense that the Hong Kong wants to be its own entity, and that seems to be the core of this fight.
Yes, absolutely. This is the core. It is a question of identity, because based on the fact that Hong Kong was promised a separate identity at least for 50 years, Hong Kong has remained a financial and business center of the world. And if these promises are taken away so quickly, then it will affect Hong Kong's standing as a financial and business center, and this in turn will affect mainland China. Shanghai may think that they will gain from it, but it's not the same thing, because it is the freedoms in Hong Kong that keep it alive as a financial and business center. And as we have already seen since the trouble erupted over the extradition law, a lot of financial resources are moving away from Hong Kong. They're going to Singapore and other places, and this will certainly affect the business feeling in Hong Kong. So it's a combination. It's not just the students. It's the business environment. It is the living environment. So many expats live in Hong Kong. They find a lot of freedom in Hong Kong. They love the place. They enjoy living there. But what will it be like if they are not given the freedoms that were assured to them? So, and also, this will affect, I think, this whole question of Taiwan. You have the Dalai Lama having spoken of one country, two systems for Tibet. You have all this dialogue going on, and at this time, to have this harsh crackdown in Hong Kong is really very unfortunate.
Ms. Veena Sikri, former Indian envoy to Hong Kong, thank you so much for taking time out and going down memory lane and sharing your thoughts and perspective right here on Wion World is One. Shifting focus away from Hong Kong.